Order. Question number 4, Dr. Shane Reti.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. To the Ministry for Tertiary Education, Skills and Employment, to the Minister, what reports has he received about employment growing across New Zealand?
Honourable Stephen Joyce.
Mr. Speaker, the Household Labour Force survey released earlier this month showed an additional 80,000 more people in work than a year ago. And what was particularly pleasing was the broad-based nature of that job growth across a range of regions. Over the year, Waikato saw an increase of 17,400 jobs, Canterbury 15,800, the Bay of Plenty 15,600, and in Northland, a region that has historically struggled, 7,500 additional jobs were added in 1 year. To put that into perspective, Auckland, a region which is 10 times larger in terms of working population, saw an increase of 22,400 jobs over the year. So the Northland growth is very impressive. Mr. Speaker, there is of course much more to do, but this government's plan is boosting jobs, investment and growth across New Zealand.
Supplementary.
Supplementary question, Dr. Shane Reti.
Then how is Northland performing compared to the rest of the New Zealand economy?
This will be good.
Order. Order.
Hold on to your seats, folks.
Honourable Stephen Joyce.
Well, Mr. Speaker, yesterday's ANZ Regional Trends Report highlighted that Northland recorded the strongest annual rate of economic growth in the country in December, up 5.1% from a year earlier. It also posted the largest increase in merchandise exports in the December quarter, lifting 9.1%, with exports up 20% on a year ago. In addition, a strong 5.7% rise in employment ranked Northland second across all the regions. Mr. Speaker.
Order. Order. The member. Order. The member has a right to raise a point of order.
Mr. Speaker, standing orders require answers to be concise and to the point. If Mr. Joyce wants to be the Northland candidate for National, I'm sure they'd have it.
Order. And that is not a valid point of order, ruined by the latter part of the point of order. Does the Minister wish to continue, or I invite the member to bring his Minister to bring his answer to a conclusion.
Certainly, Mr. Speaker. We acknowledge, of course, there's more to be done, but what is clear from these figures is that the Northland economy is growing strongly under this government.
Supplementary.
Supplementary question, Dr. Shane Reti.
What other proposals has he seen to grow regions like Northland?
Order insofar as there's ministerial responsibility.
Well, Mr.
Honourable
Speaker,
Stephen Joyce.
In contrast to the positive policies that are seeing growth in Northland and other regions around the country, I've seen policies that would halt the rollout.
Order. 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 That is a point of order, and I expect it to be heard in silence.
Mr. Speaker, the question was about regions like Northland, not about Northland itself. And the Minister is talking about Northland. He shouldn't be.
Order! The question was more about what other policies, so I'm going to allow the Minister to continue his answer.
Well, Mr. Speaker, it's very interesting. In contrast to positive policies of the government in regions like Northland, I've seen policies that would halt the rollout, for example, of ultra-fast and rural broadband, policies that would cancel the construction of vital infrastructure like core roading projects that connect regions to our big cities, would discourage business from hiring new staff by getting rid of 90-day trials and the starting out wage, would introduce an expensive capital gains tax and would reject foreign investment in regions like Northland.
I can sense where the answer's going. There's no ministerial responsibility there. Supplementary question, Right Honourable Winston Peters.
If any of the Minister's answers are remotely true, why did a leading New Zealand economist recently describe the capital of Northern Whangarei, Mr Reti's electorate, as a zombie town? And if he's so confident, why didn't he stand in Northland himself?
Honourable Stephen Joyce.
Well, Mr. Speaker, I didn't realise the members still lived there, but I can inform the member that this government is strongly encouraging the growth of Whangarei and Northland, and it is succeeding.
Question number 5, Grant Robertson.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker.